Hi everyone, this is Cherie from the Ascension Sessions. Thank you for watching the show today. I'm here live in San Francisco with Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio. And I'm so excited to share him with our audience today. I'm a fan of Dave's. I've been listening to his show for a while now, and I get to have him on our show today. So thanks for being here, Dave.
Oh, thank you so much for the invite. You know, it's very strange. Sometimes I'm used to you being in my chat rooms, and now the roles are reversed here. So I don't know if I should be nervous or if I should just be able to go with the flow. But ask anything you want.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate
You're welcome.
Your generosity and your time. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, we're here at SF UFO Con, and there's a lot of stuff happening out there. And I know that you're an experiencer, and you also talk about, a really wide variety of subjects on your show. So hopefully we can get into that. And, maybe even some of your listeners will get to know you a little bit better today.
Sure. I don't get a lot of opportunity to talk about this.
I know.
So I'm actually kind of excited about this.
Awesome. Great. So can you just start by telling me, where you're from and where you grew up and what your childhood was like, just briefly?
Sure. I grew up in a town called Abbotsford, British Columbia.
Okay.
And it was funny because back then it was only maybe a town of 15,000 people, and now it's about 130,000 people.
Wow.
And I had a very great childhood, 2 sisters, my parents growing on up. It was always hockey, there was always baseball, there was always some sort of sports going on, and that was life. And, you had a close-knit group of friends that you hung out with. I was never spiritual. We weren't a church-going family. Our church was the hockey rink or the baseball diamond.
Wow.
But we always had that strong belief, and we're taught that core belief in that there was a higher power and a higher entity, a God, so to speak.
Right.
And, I grew up in a very strict household.
Okay.
But it was fair, and it was balanced, and I think it really formed me to who I am today. I mean, paranormally speaking, I never had anything happen. Not until I was well into my happily boring life.
As an adult.
As an adult,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, sometimes you have those situations that the earth just stops for a couple of seconds, and it changes your complete destination of where you're supposed to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I know your story is quite remarkable, and I want to get into that. And I know that, you have a background in journalism. So when you decided to study journalism, what were your aspirations at that time? Did you want to do sports journalism, or what made you get into that?
Well, journalism was actually about a third or fourth choice on the list. The first goal that I had from the time I was 3 years old was I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Oh, wow.
And the military in Canada is not really a big thing. We don't have a tradition like you do in the United States here, where generations have served. I mean, there's people serving today whose great-great-great-grandfathers fought in the Civil War and World War I and World War II and Korea, Vietnam, the first Gulf War.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tradition here. And I remember when I was 3 years old, my dad took me to the local air show. And I saw fighter jets flying for the first time.
Yeah.
I fell in love.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful thing to see,
that's
right?
what I wanted to do. And then when I was 18, I had taken all my courses, through high school and trying to build towards that because I knew what I wanted. Knew what I wanted to do. And then right during my graduation year, the first Gulf War started.
Okay.
And shortly after that ended, our prime minister at the time decimated the defense budget, and they put a hiring freeze on the Canadian military. They didn't know if it was going to be 2 years or 4 years.
Oh, okay.
And at that time, it devastated me because I had no aspirations of going to university or college. I had no aspirations of anything else that I wanted to do in my life.
Wow.
And now I was thrown this huge roadblock.
Right.
Didn't know what to do. I thought about joining the United States military, and in order to become a pilot, you have to become a citizen.
Right.
And we had family friends that were living in Seattle, born and raised in Seattle, and they had a daughter my age, and I said, hey, this is what I want to do. Would you marry me to get me into the country? And she was like, yeah, of course. Like, we were friends.
Yeah.
And that's when it kind of hit me that I was Canadian. Not on a patriotic level, but the politics are so different.
Right.
I didn't want to, in case it ever happened, die for a country that wasn't mine.
Right.
Even though it would be in my adopted country,
yeah,
I'm still Canadian at heart.
Yeah, and that's a big decision.
Yeah, so I decided not to go through with that. Figured, well, I'll wait. And while I was waiting for the hiring freeze to end, I was working in a warehouse, and first day on a brand new job, 3 hours in, I had 500 pounds of dead weight fall on the side of my leg.
Oh my goodness.
Ripped my knee up. I had to go for knee surgery, and I had pins put in my knees. Military career over.
Oh my god.
Or potential military career over.
Wow.
And I went into a depression over that because I knew it was over. I knew there was no way they were going to take me, and I knew that the dream was gone. And people were telling me, why don't you just get your private pilot's license and go fly commercial or something like that. I said, no, that wasn't the point. The point, and I'm stubborn that way, the point was to fly jet fighters.
Right.
So then I debated, I'm 19, 20 years old at this time. I decided to go to college and decided to take criminology, and I hated it. I hated it, and I literally quit school. Then became a bum for a few years trying to find myself.
Yeah.
And became a hockey instructor. Because I loved the game of hockey.
Right.
Go figure. Canadian hockey.
It's a big thing.
How stereotypical is that? And did that for a couple of years. The proud moment is, years later, I had a few of those kids go on to play professional hockey.
Oh, cool.
And, to know that you had just a small part of that, that's wonderful. That they got to live the dream, and you got to help somebody live the dream.
Yeah.
And then I decided, well, I needed to do something because I didn't want to be a bum. I was now 23 years old.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a loser. I didn't want to be a bum. I didn't want to be working dead-end jobs, in a warehouse or construction or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with those type of jobs, but it wasn't for me.
Right.
I knew my limitations. I knew I was meant to do something different.
Right.
And I always like writing. I always like talking. I'm a big mouth. So that's where I entered into the BCIT, which is the British Columbia Institute of Technology. I took their broadcast journalism course. It was very difficult because not only was I going back to college at 23, which doesn't seem old, but back then,
right. Back then,
you're like
everyone's 19.
Everyone's like 18, 19 years old. But the big thing was I wanted to do something. And I knew I wanted to get into sports and things like that. I've always been a sports junkie. So I took the course. It was a difficult course because they literally took a 4-year journalism degree. And because at that time BCIT could not hand out bachelor's degrees, they had to condense that 4-year degree into 2 years. So even though you got pretty much a journalism bachelor's degree, it only is recognized as a diploma.
Oh wow! Like
but
a
that's
2-year
okay.
degree.
Yeah, like a 2-year degree, or associate's degree, whatever
Correct.
you want to call it. And I immediately started on my radio career from there, and I spent nearly 10 years in radio. Met some incredible people, had some incredible experiences.
Was it mostly sports?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also learned the uglier side of radio too, which is there's some difficult situations that you have to uncover, and this is all behind the scenes. There's a lot of grumpy people in radio. I worked for a couple people where if they died tomorrow, I would probably piss on their grave. Right? But that, because people as they get older,
Yeah.
and they haven't made the money, they haven't maybe taken advantage of their opportunities properly, they start to spite those who they feel are having success around them.
Sure.
And I found that happen
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah.
And so...
And that can happen in any industry, right?
Absolutely.
But it sounds like...
And it got to the point where I hated my job.
Yeah, that's no
I mean,
fun.
how does a person who's a sports fanatic hate their job working in sports?
Yeah, and radio is pretty fun. At least it sounds like it's fun on the air.
But it didn't pay. You know, I remember I went to a poker game with my buddies. And I was the only one sitting around that table who had a college degree. There were 11 of us. And I was the lowest paid at that table by about $20,000.
Wow.
Annually.
Yeah.
That hurt.
I was going to say, that would hurt.
That hurt. And there's just not much you can do. You just have to go with it.
Well, what I love about your story is that you held that vision of being a fighter pilot for your entire childhood, which I know so many people who hit 18 and they have no idea what they want to do.
Yeah.
You know, so the fact that you were so clear and you held that vision was really remarkable and special, you know. But I do also believe that there are no coincidences, and I think that, you know, now that years have gone by, like, can you look back now and see that what you're doing now is equally, if not more important, by sharing the information you're sharing?
Not at all.
No?
Not at all.
So you still want to be a fighter pilot?
It is... When you want something that bad,
Yeah.
and you can't have it, and you know it's unattainable, you know, it's not like any of us sitting around saying, I want to be a millionaire. We have ample opportunities to be a millionaire. It's all about the decisions you make. Excuse me. Sometimes it's luck. You win the lottery, or you win at the poker table in Vegas or something along those lines. Other times, the majority of the time, it's hard work, but it's also the decisions you make.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's the right or wrong decisions. But when it's something unattainable, that's something you dreamt about.
Yeah.
And you could see yourself doing. You know, that's probably, you know, thinking about that and what we're talking about today, that's probably when I had my first inclination of something spiritual.
Do you consider yourself a spiritual person?
Yeah.
Do you believe in past lives?
Yes.
Do you think maybe you were a fighter pilot in a past life or a future life?
I know so.
Yeah. Have you had any, like, journeys, like, you know, shamanic journeys?
I was told by
regressions?
I was told by a psychic that I know and trust, and it was ended up being confirmed out of the blue one day by another psychic. Excuse me. That I was a fighter pilot in World War II.
Okay.
And I was shot down in the Battle of Britain. It was the second time I was shot down in the war.
Oh, wow.
And I never came back.
Wow. So did it feel like unfinished business for you when you heard that story, or did you just love it so much that it's worth whatever happens?
I don't know. I mean, the skeptic in me still says, "Are you sure?" Right? But getting back to when I was 18, after probably between February and May, I kept having a recurring dream almost every night.
Oh, wow.
And I was flying a jet at the local air show. And I would go do this loop in the airplane, but instead of pulling out at the bottom, I would crash.
Oh, wow.
But right before I hit the ground, I would leave the cockpit and I would go into the crowd and watch my plane and me crash and burn and die.
Wow, what a story. So you were remote viewing your lucid dream.
Oh, I still think that would have been a great way to go.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, doing
Pretty
something that you love.
Right.
But I had that dream. Little did I know, in translation of that dream, Fast forward 20 years, that dream was actually a premonition that my dream of being a pilot in this incarnation, in this lifetime, was never going to happen. And I didn't know how to take that. You know, I really didn't know how to take that. So I think that was probably one of the first experiences that I had, but I didn't realize it was an experience until much later on in my life.
Yeah, it's a great story. And, you know, selfishly speaking, I'm glad that you're a radio talk show, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you didn't, you know, get to live that dream in this lifetime, but it just wasn't meant to be, I feel like. Yeah.
And that's possibly it. And maybe doing what I'm doing now with Spaced Out Radio, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. It feels like it. Yeah.
Did you start Spaced Out Radio before or after you had your experience, your abduction experience?
Way after.
Way after, okay.
Yeah, well, not way after, like months after.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, just for my audience, in case you guys don't know, Dave is an experiencer.
Ooh.
He's an abductee. And I'd love to ask you a couple questions about that. So obviously, well, not obviously, but you shared with me earlier that, you know, you had this experience, you woke up, it was totally unexpected. It wasn't like something you remembered happening repeatedly as a child.
Yeah.
So could you share a little bit about your experience and what it was for you?
Sure. I actually have to go back in time.
Okay.
Okay, so in March of 2014, I don't know if I was taken or I had a very vivid dream. I was put in a white room.
Okay.
And up until that point, I'd had 3 years or 2.5 years of experiences, 3 years of experiences that I could not explain. And
in this 3D realm.
Yes.
This realm. Okay.
I mean, it went from paranormal to intuition to channeling to seeing ghosts, talking to ghosts, seeing UFOs, seeing Bigfoot. Like anything that I wanted to see, all of a sudden I could see.
Okay.
And I didn't know why.
And that started when?
And that started December 13th, 2011.
Okay.
All right. And I was literally, because I'm a journalist, even though I was retired at that time, because retired sounds so much better than quitting.
And you were like all of what? 40?
No, not even.
38.
Well, at that point in March, I was 40 years old.
Okay.
And I literally was staying up until 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5, 6 in the morning, trying to find anything online, on television, on the radio, in the library, anything that coincided with what I was experiencing.
And did you have any luck?
Everything was always similar. It was never the same.
Okay.
And that's what frustrated me.
Sure.
So in March of 2014, I like I said, I don't know if I was taken. I don't know if I was just in a real lucid type dream. But I was put in this white room. I knew the room was square, almost rectangle. I knew there was a floor, even though I couldn't see it. I knew there was a ceiling and walls, even though I couldn't see them. The room was so bright. Like if you look at lights, right, you almost squint. Okay, like we are right now.
Right.
This white light was so bright, but it didn't hurt my eyes. And then kind of from behind me, this real deep man's voice says, Dave, we no longer want you researching any of these topics. We don't want you reading any more books. Don't watch any more television shows. We don't want you listening to radio shows. Don't join any paranormal groups. Nothing. And then here's
so specific.
Here's the weird part. He said, but we give you permission to watch YouTube videos. Exactly. So I said back to this voice, I said, I don't understand. You're taking everything away from me, but you're allowing me to watch YouTube videos. I don't get it.
Right.
The voice answered back and says, the answer is simple. You'll be able to tell what is real and what is fake.
Oh, wow.
And I went, okay. So fast forward 3 weeks. My wife is over.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Could you see anyone in that
No,
white room? Okay,
not
so
at
it's
all.
just the voice. Okay.
Just the voice.
Okay.
Woke up like thinking, oh, that was a cool dream.
So you woke up in bed after
Yeah.
that experience?
Woke up the next morning, my alarm went off at 7:30 or whatever. And I was like, oh, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Total recollection, total recall.
Okay.
And then fast forward 3 weeks, I worked until about 8 o'clock that night. And my wife had called me and said, we're going over to our friend's house and we're going to have some tea. She goes, do you want to meet me there? And I knew I was starting to get a little bit of a migraine. And I said, sure, I'll go. So I drive over there after work. It's about a 45, 50-minute drive from where I worked back home and then past my home to their place. And I have to explain this property. They lived on what we called the farm.
Okay.
The farm was on a very small street on top of a mountain. There was only 2 houses. Our friends had 10 acres. Their elderly neighbors who lived on their own, just the husband and wife, had 6.5 acres. Both properties were horseshoed by forest. Okay, typical British Columbia thick forest. And here we were. I pull in and I immediately go sit on the couch and I close my eyes. And my wife says to me, are you okay? And I said, no, I have a migraine coming on. She goes, well, do you want to go home? We can go home. I said, no, I just got here. You've been here. I know you want to visit. And I said, let's just see if it disappears.
Okay.
Now, the weather that night was very cloudy. It was very hazy. It was gloomy. You know, one of those low cloud, misty nights where everything is damp, but there's no rain.
Right, and everything's gray.
Exactly. Low cloud level, only a couple 100 feet. And so I'm sitting on the couch inside at this point, and the pain is just incredible in my head. And after about 10 minutes, it starts to dissipate. And it was, like a square.
Interesting.
Yeah. And my face hurt and everything hurt. Then all of a sudden after it dissipated, I started getting like pulsating pain right here. And I realized that it was actually in the shape of a triangle. And then after that dissipated, it went over to my left side as a circle and started dissipating. By the way, I should clarify the whole hair thing if people are wondering what the hell is with this dude's hair. Okay? One of my dreams has always been to donate my hair. My mother is a 2-time cancer survivor, and I've never had long hair before. So a couple years ago, I decided, screw it. I am actually going to grow out my hair for the first time in my life, and when I get around to it, I will donate it. So just if people are wondering if they don't know me, who's this guy freak with the long hair?
Thanks for sharing that story. It's so admirable.
So there is an actual purpose to growing the hair.
Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
after the pain subsided, I started to get an anxiety attack that I had to go outside.
Okay.
And I looked at my wife. I'm on the couch. She's on the love seat. I looked over at her and I said, I gotta go outside. There's something there. I have to go right now. Because a lot of my experiences happen at this farm.
Oh, wow.
And she goes, can I come with you? I said, no, you have to stay inside with our boy. Because our boy was only like 8 months old.
Okay.
So the lady of the house, who I now have no contact with, very psychic, very good at what she does, but she never really used her stuff for the good. Found out later on she put a curse on me.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Gotta love that.
She, the curse is gone, by the way.
Okay, good.
I looked at her, because I was very naive to everything and all these experiences. I looked at her and I said, we gotta go outside right now. So she yells at her hubby, Dave, as well, and said, Dave is picking something up outside. Get your shoes on, we need to go outside. I looked at her and I said, he can't come. He's not invited.
Oh, wow.
Like, why would I tell someone they're not
Right.
invited on their own property?
Right.
So the lady of the house, her and I, get our shoes on. We scamper our way around the house to the backyard where they had about 50 feet from the house. They had this old 2x10 horse fence. And it just got weird. You could feel something there. So I said, out of God's peace, love, and light, you called me outside. Can you please show me where you are? In this exact volume that I'm saying to you. 150 yards away from the neighbor's back field, tucked in by the forest, the entire tree line lit up like a Christmas tree on my command.
Oh my gosh. I'm like getting full chills.
So my first inclination is it a 100,000 candle watt flashlight? Okay, that somebody's playing a joke. Could they have heard me? Is there any possibility that I can hear laughing? Am I seeing movement? This can't be real. And
Right.
I'm crossing all of this off.
Were you at all investigating UFOs at this point in your life?
UFOs have popped up.
Okay.
UFOs have popped up. And
Have
when
you
we get
seen
into
a
the whole
ship?
spiritual stuff, I'll tell you how that happened.
Okay.
So there's a tree line in between the two properties, about 60, 70 foot trees, real tall, and there's heavy brush and blackberry bushes that kind of overgrew the fence line in between the two properties. So after about 30 seconds, the lights go off. And now I'm like, holy crap. Like, I can't believe this has happened.
Yeah.
And I said, if you are of alien descent out of God's peace, love, and light, can you turn your lights back on? Boom. Lights come back on my command.
Oh my
This time
gosh.
they're wider through the trees, brighter. It's very lit up. The same type of bright white light that I saw in that white room.
Okay.
Not hurting my eyes.
Right.
Okay?
Wow.
And, after coming off a migraine, light hurts.
Oh yeah, for
Okay?
sure.
If you have migraines,
I
you know
used to have
light.
migraines.
light
and
hurts.
I had to be in a pitch black room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I start to move to my right because I think I see something, and I want to try and get a better view from what's blocking through the trees. And so I move to my right probably 15 feet, and I find a clear path through the trees, and that's where I see this blue cylinder standing vertical.
Oh wow.
All the white light is emanating, I don't know if it's touching it, but it's emanating from the bottom of this cylinder. And it's the most beautiful blue I've ever seen. The closest blue that I can find to it is the blue emergency lights on a police car.
Okay. It's like an
Except-
indigo blue.
but it's darker.
Royal blue.
It's not a
indigo.
royal, but it's not an indigo. It's kind of like in between.
Okay.
Gorgeous, gorgeous blue. And imagine having a giant cylinder of this. And at the bottom of this cylinder, the rotating counterclockwise was a black cloud. And that cloud would sometimes work its way halfway up the cylinder, and then it would work its way back down.
So was the cylinder just full of light cylinder, or was there a physical object
No,
that had light around it? Don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
It looked like it was just one giant blue cylinder.
So why do you think they wanted you to see them at that farm?
I have no idea.
At that day. Did you ever get
No.
information about that?
No.
No.
So
Any
I know
other-
it was
any
opening
other
up. I know it
voice
was
of
opening me.
God's?
It was opening me up to contact
Okay.
because the lights went out after 3 times, or after 30 seconds. My friend wanted to go over there,
Yeah.
and I said to her, "No, you're not going over there." And she goes, "Well, why not?" I said, "Number one, we don't know what the hell this is.
Yeah.
Number two, if that thing takes you, I'm not walking back into your house alone.
To tell your husband.
I'm a suspect."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like, I was scared.
That's a good point.
I was scared.
And you studied criminology, right? So
Yeah,
you-
for the short few months that I did. And anyways,
Oh my
so I
gosh.
said, "You're staying here with me. You're
Yeah.
not going." I said, "If I see you walk over there, I'm throwing you over my shoulder and I will hold on to you." Okay? Because you're not going over there. And so she goes, "Well, try it again." I said, Just so I know I'm not crazy, out of God's peace, love, and light, can you please turn your lights on one final time? Lights come on.
Wow.
Okay, and it's there for about 30 seconds and then does some flashing and then disappears. Didn't hear it. We knew it was gone. It was just over. The situation was over. 5 days later, I haven't slept in 5 days now because this is going through my head. I cannot process this.
Did your frequency change? Did you feel like you were vibrating at a higher rate?
No.
Okay.
I was too focused on what the hell it was.
Yeah, so you were in your head.
Yeah. So 5 days later, I meet a young lady. We go back to the farm. We get invited for coffee. And I happen to have a day off work. I haven't slept in 5 days.
Wow.
And we go back to the farm and we're introduced to a young lady who joined us for coffee named Samantha Mowat. Mm-hmm. And Samantha's a lifelong ET contactee. So Samantha sees me pacing around the house and I'm looking outside. And we told her the story of what had happened a few nights ago. Mm-hmm. And she looks at me and she goes, Dave, you want to go outside, don't you? And it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, not a cloud in the sky. Beautiful spring day on April 15th, 2014. I said, yeah, I do. She goes, do you mind if I come with you? Mm-hmm. I said, sure. Not a problem. So we go and we walk back into the field. Into our friend's field.
Yeah.
Further, and I showed her where we were standing, where I saw the blue cylinder, and then we walked deeper into the back field and kind of parallel from where I believe this craft or whatever it was sitting. And she starts picking up on the energy of it. And we used to bring our 2 dogs over to run around on the farm. Mm-hmm. The farm had 2 dogs, so there were 4 dogs surrounding us. Samantha all of a sudden stops me and she goes, you want to go back in the forest? And I went, sure. She goes, you know we're probably going to see something, right? And I said, what the F? After what I just saw the other night, why not? She goes, okay. And she makes this weird comment. She goes, but from what I understand, ETs don't like dogs, so I don't know if they'll be there. So I said, well, we could put the dogs in the house. She goes, yeah, but by the time we take them to the house, they're going to run right back here with us. Let's just see how it goes. So we start to walk towards this tree line where the fence is, and then these giant, beautiful, like 80, 90-foot trees, old growth, that kind of start the forest. And we walk back there, and as we're walking, all 4 dogs run into the forest.
They take off ahead of you.
And they take off ahead of us.
Yeah.
So we cross into the forest, and the dogs are around us. And when her and I are all small talk, and she's asked me, have I ever seen an ET before? And I'm like, no. And real small talk, because I don't know this lady from Adam. Mm-hmm. And she stops me at about 50 yards. She just kind of looks around puzzled, and she says, Dave, where's the dogs? Mm-hmm. All 4 dogs that were with us are now gone. So like stupid people, we keep going into the forest, right? We keep going into the forest. We walk another 50 yards, but now we're being aware.
Yeah, now you know something's different.
Now there's no protection of the dogs. And in that area, there's black bears, there's cougars, okay?
And you couldn't hear the dogs in the distance.
No, the dogs were just gone.
Wow.
Okay, so we keep going another 50 yards, and Samantha stops me. She gets about 18 inches from my face. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like, what is happening here? Right? And she goes, Dave, looking me deadpan in the eye.
Yeah.
She goes, Dave, I don't want you to be afraid, but I want you to look that way. And she points north. And she goes, and I want you to tell me what you see. Mm-hmm. So I took a deep breath. And I turned and I looked. Mm-hmm. And cover your ears if you don't want swearing. And I said, Samantha, what the fuck is that? Samantha, what the fuck is that?
Oh my gosh.
What the fuck is that, Samantha? Samantha, what the fuck is that?
That's going to be a lot of bleeps.
Yes.
In our show.
I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Because standing 200 feet in front of me, and Samantha was a 10 to 12 foot extraterrestrial.
Oh my gosh.
And when you're 40 years old and this stuff is not supposed to be real.
Wait, how tall?
10 to 12 feet.
Wow. Was it a gray? Like a gray looking?
It was a creamy brown color.
Okay, but it
was almost like, when you pour too much cream in your coffee.
Yeah.
It's got that milky white brown color. That's what it was like.
But did it have the gray head shape and all that?
It had a round head. I never saw the arms. I never saw the legs. I didn't see the second being that was there.
Wow. What about the eyes? Did you see the eyes?
Saw the eyes.
Were they the big almond-shaped eyes?
Massive.
Yeah.
Massive.
So she saw the second being.
Yes. So I didn't know that. We actually did not confirm that until like 5 months later.
About the second being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought when we had our conversations about it, I thought we were talking about the same being.
And you said 200 yards away?
200 feet.
200 feet.
Yeah, not that far.
So that's like, what, half of a football field?
Maybe 50 yards.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so not
maybe,
far.
Maybe 40 yards.
So pretty close.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so anyways, I'm frozen. I'm not scared of the being. What I'm scared of is that I now know that everything that I have learned in my first 40 years of life
was false.
Is over.
Over. Wow.
Right? Because I was brought up, you believe in God. Yeah. God is good, devil bad. If you do good, you go up. If you do bad, you go down. So treat everybody well. Right. But none of my hockey coaches, none of my baseball coaches, none of my teachers, none of my parents, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, people I respect.
Yeah.
Ever told me, what do you do when there's an extraterrestrial standing in front of you?
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So Samantha starts telepathically communicating with the being.
Okay. Are these the same beings she's had experiences with her whole life?
One of them.
Okay. So one was familiar to her.
The second being was a 5 to 6 foot gray, but it was tan colored. And this being, the second being that I didn't know of at that time, starts telepathically communicating with Samantha and says, you're more than willing to come over and say hello. We're not here to harm you. We're not here to take you. However, we are worried about the man's health.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And
they called you the man.
So Samantha says to me, Dave, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
Did they mean your health in that moment because you were so frozen?
They were showing her that if I would have walked up there, I would have probably had a heart attack and died.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it confused me that she said that. Okay, because I had seen fire in the sky. All right, I saw what happened to Travis Walton on that ship in the movie.
Yeah.
Not thinking that it was Hollywood. Okay, and that's what I had in my mind. Like, this is what happens. ETs are bad. If ETs are so bad, why is this extraterrestrial that I'm looking at straight ahead of me concerned about my health? Did not comprehend, did not compute.
Right.
The other thing I want to say, too, is I always get asked, well, did you have your cell phone on you? Yes, I had the old iPhone 3. And then the next question is, why didn't you take a photo?
Right.
You have to understand, that is a traumatic experience.
Yeah, the last thing you're thinking about is
my eyes and what they are seeing is not being comprehended by my brain.
Sure.
The last thing on my mind is actually reaching into my pocket and grabbing the phone and saying, hey, Mr. Alien, can you wait a second here? I hold on, you're blurry. Are you Bigfoot? Are you blurry? Right?
Put your arm around the other one.
Exactly. Like, you're just not thinking that.
Right. Sure, you're in pure shock.
It's pure shock. It's traumatic.
Right.
And that's what I was going through. So fast forward after Samantha starts to walk down the path
towards them.
I said, don't you leave me. You know, like I reached into my back pocket, literally held out my man card, right? And I said, please don't you leave me. Do not leave me here. I said, what if that thing takes you
Right.
and I got to go back to the house alone? I said, please, right?
Yeah.
Don't leave me. So out of frustration, Samantha stays with me. And we watch these beings for about 20 minutes. And it's just a stare down, like at the OK Corral.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
20 minutes?
20 minutes.
That's a very long time.
Yeah. And eventually...
I mean 1 minute of that would feel
minutes.
like 20 minutes.
No, it was 20 minutes.
Wow.
I only know that because of the clock when we got back. And we eventually started making our way back to the farm.
Did the dogs ever show up?
And as we approached...
Oh my goodness.
As we approached the entrance to the farm, all 4 dogs ran out to greet us.
They were still in the forest.
Yeah. So, no, they were back in the farmyard.
Oh, they had already returned.
To the farmyard. We didn't know where they were. They were now in the farmyard, and as we were about to go on that final path towards the entry gate where the farm was, all 4 dogs met us at that gate.
I wonder if they knew or got some telepathic message that was like, don't come into the forest.
It was totally that.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. Wow, that's a really amazing first contact experience.
So as we're walking out, Samantha stops me and she goes, have you ever been taken before? And it's funny because she does not remember this part of the conversation. And she goes, have you ever been taken before? And I said, no. She goes, well, not that you know of. I said, right, but I don't think I have.
Yeah.
She goes, okay, you're probably going to get taken now. So,
wow.
And then she says, but just remember, it doesn't hurt. Your body's going to tell you it hurts, but you can override that because it doesn't hurt. And I remember that conversation like you and I were having it right now. Samantha...
What a thing to say to someone.
In fact, Samantha and I... She now understands it because we had this another conversation because she found over the last few years that she has been deleting important parts or she can't remember important parts of things that happen. And we eventually talked this out. But for a long time, she was mad at me that I was saying, she thought I was lying and making it up, saying it doesn't hurt. She goes, Dave, it does hurt sometimes. Why? I would never tell you that. I'm like, Samantha, I will never lie to you about this situation. I will never embellish this.
Yeah.
We experienced this together. I can't believe you don't remember saying that to me. Right?
So do you think it was mind control on their part?
Could have been.
Yeah. Because, I mean, they obviously have the power
Yeah.
of mind control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So September 30th, fast forward from April to September 30th, I just finished hosting a UFO conference in Vancouver where Samantha was speaking. And this is where I met a gentleman named Johnny Enoch, who many out there will know.
Yeah.
And Johnny asked me to MC his conference, and I said, sure, I'd love to. And anyways... We get home, it's on the 30th, we're kind of sitting on the patio. I felt the need to channel. Like, felt there were some messages. And I remember getting into my meditation and closing my eyes. And my wife is sitting probably about as far away from me as you are. And I'm closing my eyes and I can see, sometimes you can see clearer with your eyes closed.
Yeah.
Those who have channeled before, you can see clearer with your eyes closed.
Had you channeled before?
Yeah.
At that point?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
A few times.
When did your channeling skills come online?
December 13th, 2011 at about 10 o'clock that night.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So kind of when everything started.
Yes.
So channeling was the first thing that started?
The second.
Oh, okay. What was the first?
Seeing the angel of death in my mother's eyes.
Oh, okay.
And then channeling the angel of death.
We need like 5 hours
Yeah.
for this interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'll give you another one. But, anyways, my having this conversation with Samantha, she didn't remember.
Yeah.
And then back on September 30th, I was about to channel, and I had my eyes closed, and I could see this little ET face peering out from behind the chair my wife was sitting on. And I went, oh, and I had my eyes closed, but
Right.
I'm just visualizing. And I said, oh, hello, how are you today? Mm-hmm. And the head quickly dashed back, right, and it was gone.
Wow.
So I ended up doing some channeling, and it's kind of irrelevant to this conversation. But that night, that little ET guy and his two buddies came back. I got woken up, went to bed at about 1:30 in the morning. I got woken up by the feeling of little fingers running through my hair. And I remember I picked up my head, I looked to my right, and it was dark, but I knew there was light there. I could see a light source.
Yeah.
So I turned my head to the left, and that's where I saw the three little gray dudes. They were wearing the silverish black outfits. I could see the hands, I could see the head of their heads, and there was light there. And I remember getting excited, like, holy crap, Samantha was right. I've been taken.
So you knew you weren't in bed anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm on a steel table.
Wow.
And my face, when I lifted my head up, was like, when you go for a massage, they put your face in that donut so you can breathe.
Yeah.
That's what it was like.
Oh, you were on your stomach.
Yeah, it was on my stomach. And so
did that make you feel vulnerable? Being
no,
on your stomach?
I just figured, well, let's just go with it, right? See where this goes. And so I remember I put my head back down, and I could hear them scurrying on my left. And I felt the cut line go into the back of my head. Then I felt the one guy who was standing as I'm lying down, he's by my left shoulder.
Yeah.
He starts pulling on my skin towards my forehead.
Yeah, wow.
And I'm like, and I remember going, oh, this is supposed to feel good. This doesn't feel good, right? And that's when I heard this saw-like thing.
Wow.
And I remember, I don't recall a smell, but I remember feeling my skull being cut open. And then a guy beside him trying to get his fingers into those holes to pull up on my skull.
Oh my
And
gosh.
while the next guy is trying to jam something in, and I start screaming.
Yeah, I mean, didn't it hurt? Like,
It was painful.
they didn't, give you any pain?
No, they don't ask if you want morphine or anything, right?
No.
You know?
They don't have an anesthetist on staff.
No. So I end up,
Oh my gosh.
I end up then hearing Samantha's voice in my head. Don't worry, Dave. It doesn't hurt.
Wow.
And just like when I heard her voice, I calmed down, I relaxed, and all of a sudden everything tickled.
No way.
Everything tickled. And I was laughing, giggling. And these guys are working away, and I'm like, just kind of taking it all in, trying to feel the experience.
Wow. Well, weren't you alarmed that they were implanting something in the back of your skull?
Part of the journey.
Really? You weren't just trying to jump off the table?
No.
Were you paralyzed?
No. I didn't think I was. I didn't feel like I was.
Wow.
And so from there, this is where it gets funny. And it's funny because when I first told this to Lori and Fenton, she was killing herself laughing, and she goes, "You know how I know your story is true, Dave?" And I said, "Why?" And she goes, "I have dealt with hundreds, if not thousands, of experiencers, and I've heard some wacky stories, but nobody makes up that part." Mm-hmm. And what it was all of a sudden, I had to pee. When you go out with your friends, and let's say, back in our younger days, you go to the bar, and you start having a few drinks and a few more drinks, and the last thing you want to do now is go to the bathroom. As painful as it is, you don't want to go to the bathroom because now you're going to be in the bathroom every 10 minutes. Go to the bathroom. That's what it felt like. I did not want to break the seal. And I started yelling at him.
Oh my
And
God.
I started yelling. I said, "Guys, you got to hurry up here. I got to pee. You got to hurry up, guys. I'm going to piss all over your table if you don't get me back home.
Oh my God.
Get me back home. I got to pee real bad." Right? And I could feel them getting nervous.
Oh my God.
And hustling and bustling and, and all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden, boom, I wake up in my bed. I'm lying on top of my covers. My face is buried in my pillow. My head is throbbing.
Yeah.
And I run to the bathroom. I've got one hand on the back of my head, and my other hand I'm trying to get my boxer shorts down. I stood there for about 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Best piss of my life.
So, when you told me that story earlier, I was wondering, like, if these are advanced beings and they can open portals and, get you back in your bed in a matter of seconds, why are they using drill saws?
I don't know.
Sound like drills.
I'm putting a human portion. I don't know if it was a laser.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was just like a buzzing sound?
Yeah.
Wow. And so did you have evidence, like scars,
I had a
blood?
Bump. No scar. No, there was a bump there.
Like a little bump where the implant was?
Yeah. And to this day...
But it was under the bone, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, because of the swelling, right?
Yeah.
To this day, every time I tell that story, I can feel it in the back of my head. It's almost like it gets all giddy and excited. Hey, you're talking about me. Mm-hmm. So I get to feel that.
Wow.
Which is kind of cool.
Have you had it scanned?
No.
Are you interested?
No.
Because it's there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm gonna say this, and this goes for any of my experiences that I have had. Mm-hmm. I'm not a researcher. I'm an experiencer, and yes, I'm a journalist because I got a big mouth and I can talk. Mm-hmm. Okay? I'm not interested in going out in the field with a bunch of cameras or lasers or anything. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to take it all in myself.
Yeah.
And put the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
I don't need proof of my evidence because I've already given myself proof.
Right.
I'm not one of these people, well, how do I know that really happened if I don't have that photograph? How do I know it's not memory? You know why? Because they've given, number one, I've had a lot of witnesses with my experiences.
Yeah.
Number two, I trust myself. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will say, oh, that's a BS answer. But I trust myself to know that I'm not going to BS myself. For instance, I know that if I remember my dream, I know something happened. I don't remember my dreams. I can't tell you what I dreamt last night, the night before, mm-hmm. right through November. I cannot tell you what I dreamt, but when I was taken in this past November, I can remember that.
Mm. This past 2019?
Yes.
Okay.
I can remember that. I can remember the time before that I was taken. The time before that I was taken.
How many times have you been taken?
As far as I know, 5 times, 6 times.
Okay. And I want to go back to the story you shared about the circle, the rectangle, and the triangle. Do you think that there was an ET in the room that was cloaked, that was maybe doing something to you with the device? Or do you think they were sending you like telepathic messages that were trying to come through?
Sending.
So that's really interesting because I've experienced feelings like that where I'll just be sitting there and all of a sudden I feel like, mm-hmm. like something trying to come through my brain. Mm-hmm. And it's a really uncomfortable feeling. And it hurts.
Exactly it.
Is that how it felt?
Yes.
Yeah. And I always go like, not now, get out. You can't come in right now, So that's really fascinating. So they were trying to tell you to come outside.
Yes, they called me outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating.
So that was interesting.
Do you want to share about your latest experience in November?
It's not over yet.
It's not over yet?
Yeah.
What does that mean? It's still happening?
It's still happening. But it's taken on a real scary tone. Mm. But not E.T. scary. Mm-hmm. I don't want to...
You're not ready to share.
No.
Okay.
That one I have too many questions.
Yeah.
And once I'm able to get some of my questions answered...
You can come back on the show.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so the other question I wanted to ask you was more about how your contact experiences or anyone's contact experiences tie into your spiritual awareness, ascension? You know, do you think they're related? And do you think that having these gifts come online, right? Because I think what you were saying is that in 2011, you realized that, you know, you could channel, you could see ghosts, you could remote view, you could astral project, you could, you know, feel these beings around you and see them even in your mind's eye. But that was before the implant, at least that implant, right? So maybe you had another implant that, do you think the implants like turned on these gifts?
When I started having these experiences, I was very lucky within the first few months to meet a beautiful, important soul in my life. His name is Pascal. And Pascal is a monster of a man. He's about 6'4". He's probably 325, 330 pounds. His hands are about 3 times the size of mine. And when he shakes hands, he lets you know how strong he is. But he is the most gentle yet stern person that I have ever met. He has been a complete mentor of mine, an idol, a hero, everything. And I remember one of my first conversations with him, and he asked me within that first 2 hours of us meeting, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? And I thought, okay, let's just go for it. He goes, are you sure? He goes, because once we start, there's no stopping.
It's like, what's his name in
and he pushed me.
that movie?
He pushed me big time. He believes that in order to become spiritually healthy, there are blockages that happen usually between the ages of 7 and 12. And he tried to clear those blockages for me. I got blockages in my knees and blockages in my elbows.
Is he a shaman?
Yes.
Yeah, I got that picture when you described him.
He is I cannot ever find the words to explain what he means to me. I love the man that much.
Yeah, that's nice.
And we went through everything. Like he would, for the first couple weeks that we were meeting, he would purposefully egg me on to get me mad. Or to make me cry.
Yeah.
Or to put me in uncomfortable situations that I couldn't handle or understand or find the words to. And he knew exactly how far he could push me. And I don't understand him. To this day, I don't understand him, but he is a gift. And I learned so much off of him. I still learn off of him. And even though like we don't talk we talk maybe once every few months now. But I still, like, just seeing his name pop up on my Facebook, or if I'm scrolling through my phone and I see his name pop up, that's all I need. It's just to know that he is there.
Yeah.
And that if I need answers, my friend will be there for me.
Is he an experiencer too?
Yes, but he doesn't talk about himself.
But he understands.
His job on this planet is to help people find their direction.
Yeah.
And that's what he did with me. And learning from him, that's where I was able to find that this is all tied together. There is some sort of spiritual cord that's invisible, that is sewn in between consciousness, ascension, psychic intuition, numerology, ghosts, aliens, UFOs, Bigfoot, fairies, dogmen, shadow people,
Batman.
Lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, and happiness and wealth and self-preservation and management and treating yourself among others with respect and love and everything. And the practical side of me says this guy's an idiot. The spiritual side says to me, where has he been all our lives?
What would you say to others who are new experiencers who are just going down this rabbit hole or maybe just having their first contact experience, what would you say to them?
Find your Pascal.
That's great.
And what I mean by that is, I didn't realize until I started this radio show how many truly sinister people there are in this field, who are there for their own profit, their own being, their own dignity, and their own selfishness.
Sure.
You need to find a Pascal. Do not jump from psychic to psychic to psychic to psychic to psychic. Do not jump from spiritual healer to spiritual healer. Find one that you are comfortable with, who has a good reputation, who isn't into your pocketbook as much as they are into helping you. And it may not be someone online. It may be someone who, you're at a metaphysical store, looking at crystals or candles, and all of a sudden you look at that person and you're like, that person's going to be important in my life. Go say hello. That message is there. Screw the humanity. Follow the soul.
Yeah.
But be careful. There are so many charlatans and people out there who mean nothing to you and you mean nothing to them. Be careful.
Right.
I've learned that the hard way a couple of times in different situations through my radio show and trying to put it together. And it's not fun.
So Dave, thank you so much for being on the show today. There's still a lot of questions that I have for you and other topics I'd like to cover. So would you like to come back on the show again sometime?
I would love to.
Okay.
We may have to do it over Skype because
that's how
I will be in the middle
do it.
of the Canadian wilderness.
Right. Well, I usually do it over Skype, so that will be fun. And, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being open and being honest and, just sharing so much, really incredible and personal information with us today.
Thank you so much. And thank you for wanting to talk to me.
Yeah,
believe it or not,
of course.
It doesn't happen often.
Well, you're such a great interviewer. It is a little intimidating for others who, don't have the years of experience that you have. So I'm not surprised that many people don't offer that to you only because they're probably, a little intimidated by you. But I've always found you to be very personable and easy to listen to. So I imagined that you would be easy to talk to as well. And of course, you're a great interviewee. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Cherie.
Yeah.
I got your name right.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I got your name right.